Hey everyone, so it looks like you've been doing a little research on net worth projections for 2025.
Interesting stuff.
Yeah, and I've got the research right here. It's that YouTube podcast script, What's Your Net Worth? How Americans Stack Up by Age 2025 data.
Okay.
I think we can break this down a little bit and see what we can learn.
Yeah, I'm sure we can unearth some useful insights here. Always fascinating to see how these projections shake out across the different age groups.
Okay, so let's back up for just a second. Just make sure that we're all on the same page about what net worth actually means.
Yeah, at its core, net worth is actually a pretty straightforward calculation. Basically, it's just the total value of everything you own, your assets,
Okay.
minus everything you owe, your liabilities.
Got it. So, like, using the sources examples, if I've got a house with some equity, some savings and investments, maybe a car, those are all my assets.
Exactly.
But then I've also got that mortgage hanging over my head, maybe some student loan debt I'm still chipping away at, and maybe a little credit card debt. Those are my liabilities.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
It's that balancing act. Between growing those assets and shrinking those liabilities, that ultimately determines your net worth.
Makes sense. Now, this script that we're looking at here, it actually goes on to break down the average net worth for each age group. And I have to say, some of these numbers, they were pretty eye-opening to me.
Interesting.
Yeah, like for example, it says here that folks in their 20s are projected to have an average net worth of $113,000 by 2025.
Wow.
But then you jump up to an average of $317,000 for those in their 30s.
It's a pretty steep climb.
Yeah, right.
It is. But hold on a second. Before we get too carried away by those averages, it's important to remember that there's a big difference between average and median net worth. The average can be really skewed by those who are at the very, very top of the wealth spectrum.
So a handful of millionaires can really throw that average number off, making it seem like, everybody in that age group is doing really, really well. But in fact, that might not be the reality for most people.
That's exactly right. That's why looking at the median net worth gives you a much more realistic picture of where the typical person stands. The median is the midpoint of all the numbers.
Got it. Okay. And I'm actually seeing that reflected in the source's data here. For people in their 20s, the median net worth is actually only $7,638.
Oh, wow.
Huge difference from that $113,000 average, right?
That's a big difference.
I'm guessing student loans and those entry-level salaries are really playing a role there.
Absolutely. Those early years can be tough financially as you're kind of getting your career going and trying to manage that debt.
Right.
But you can see from the data, things start to shift as people enter their 30s. The median net worth climbs to $35,649.
So it seems like even though there's still a gap between that average and the median, people are starting to make a little bit of headway, maybe as they're starting to earn more and paying down some of that debt.
Exactly. It's a good reminder that building wealth is a journey, not a sprint. And then, as we move into the 40s, that median net worth jumps up to $125,000. That's often when, careers are a little more established, people may be starting to think a little more seriously about investing for the future.
It is interesting to see that gap between the average and the median net worth starts to widen. Even more in this age bracket.
Yeah.
The average for folks in their 40s is projected to be over $791,000 in 2025.
Wow.
That's more than 6 times higher than the median.
Yeah, that really highlights how much those outliers, those with significant wealth, can really skew that overall picture. It's a good reminder that focusing on the median gives us a much more kind of grounded perspective on where most people stand financially at this stage in life.
Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit and talk about the 50s.
Okay.
The median net worth here is projected to be $288,000.
Got it.
But again, that average is way up there, at $1.4 million.
Yeah.
What's going on there? Are more people just hitting those high net worth levels by the time they reach their 50s?
It's probably a combination of factors. Some individuals may be seeing really significant returns on those long-term investments.
Right.
Others might be benefiting from an inheritance. And then for some, it could just be the result of, entrepreneurial success, career advancements, things like that.
So it's not necessarily that everybody in their 50s is suddenly becoming a millionaire. It's just that those who already have wealth, they're seeing their assets appreciate even more.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to, not get caught up in comparing ourselves to those averages. Focus on your own financial goals and use those median figures as a general benchmark.
Makes sense. All right, so let's wrap things up with the 60s.
Okay.
Here, the median net worth is projected to be $439,000 in 2025. And while that average still sits pretty high at $1.7 million, It is interesting to see how both those numbers kind of seem to level off a little bit compared to the previous age group.
Yeah, and that makes sense considering, this is typically when people are starting to transition into retirement, maybe shifting their focus from accumulating wealth to more preserving it and drawing down on those savings.
So let's connect all of this back to the listener for a second. I mean, what does all this mean for their own financial journey?
It's a good reminder that understanding these net worth figures can be a really powerful tool for setting realistic expectations and tracking your own progress.
Yeah, I think it's really easy to get caught up in those, in those average figures and start to feel like, oh, I'm falling behind.
Right.
But focusing on the median really helps us see where we truly stand.
Exactly.
And helps us maybe identify some areas where we can, improve our financial well-being.
It's not about keeping up with the Joneses. It's about creating that solid financial foundation that supports your individual goals and aspirations.
Right. This source even refers to net worth as a kind of a GPS for our financial health.
I like that analogy.
I do too.
It's fitting. Your net worth can indicate whether you're on track for a comfortable retirement, if you're prepared for any unexpected expenses that might pop up, how effectively you're managing your debt. It's all interconnected.
And even if somebody's net worth isn't quite where they'd like it to be, it's never too late to start making some positive changes.
Absolutely. Every step that you take towards paying down debt, increasing your savings rate, or making smart investments, it brings you closer to those goals.
It feels like we've really covered a lot of ground here today.
We have.
Talking about average versus median net worth, the impact of age and different life stages, and how all of this kind of ties into our own personal financial journeys.
Yeah, it's all connected. And while those numbers and projections can be insightful, I think it's even more important to really understand what this all means for you on a personal level.
Right. So beyond just hitting a certain net worth number, what does financial health and security really look like? I mean, for the listener, what does it mean for them?
That's a question only you can answer. For some folks, it might be about peace of mind, knowing that they have a comfortable cushion for retirement. For others, it could be the freedom to pursue their passions without those financial constraints.
Yeah, or maybe it's having the resources to, travel or start a business.
Right.
Give back to their community.
Exactly. It's about defining your own version of financial success and then creating a roadmap to get there. Net worth, it's just one piece of that puzzle.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive, what's one key takeaway that you'd like the listener to walk away with today?
Don't get caught up comparing yourself to those average net worth figures. Focus on understanding your own financial goals and then take those actionable steps to move towards them.
Yeah, whether it's creating a budget, paying down that debt, increasing your savings rate, or exploring some different investment options, every little bit counts.
Exactly. Remember, building wealth, it's a marathon, not a sprint.
That's right. Well, you've given us a lot to think about today. Thanks so much for guiding us through this deep dive into net worth. It's been really interesting.
It's been my pleasure. And remember, your financial journey is unique to you.
Yeah.
Embrace it, stay informed, keep moving forward.
And to everyone listening, thanks for joining us on this exploration. We hope you found it valuable, and we'll see you next time.